welcome to the Coach Kayode Show.
Hi there. We're back with another episode of the Coach Kayode Show. I'm your host, Kayode Mckinnon. As we oftentimes say, greater is he that is in us than he that is in the world. Remember the show, we talk all things soccer. It's no different tonight. But the ultimate objective here is to make sure that we are impacting and we are inspiring the lives of our young people to live out their purpose. We understand these are very trying times. These are very difficult times, and we need to truly understand purpose before we can live a fulfilled life. Tonight we have a special guest to address some key things that you need to know in relation to becoming a top student athlete. We're going to have a college coach coming in to speak to you about a few things that you might need to know. But before we go to that, we want to give you what we promise, which is every week to bring you scores and stats from what is happening, what we want to highlight, what we want to zoom in on. So without further ado, scores and stats with the Wall Ahmed.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and all athletes. Welcome to another segment of Scores and Stats. Let's continue week 2 of the 2022 annual NWSL Challenge Cup. A total of 6 matches was played. Let's get straight into it, starting with Racing Louisville versus Houston Dash. That game ended in a score of 2-3 in favor of Houston Dash. Goal scored by Maria Sanchez in the 56th minute, Marissa Vigiano in the 58th minute, and Rachel Delay in the 60th minute. Racing Louisville goal was scored by Christian Davis and Jessica McDonald in the 40th minute. Watching Spirit versus Gotham FC. That game ended in a 1-1 draw. Gotham FC goals were scored by Christian Mewis in the 23rd minute and Ashley H in the 61st minute. Next game, Chicago Red Star versus Kansas City FC. That game ended in a 2-1 scoreline in favor of Kansas City. Goals scored by Haley Mack in the 58th and Christian Hamilton in the 86th. Chicago Red Star lone goal was scored by Vanessa Bernardo in the 22nd minute. Next game, Angel City FC versus Old Rain. That game ended in a 3-1 favor of Old Rain. Goal scored by Veronica Lascato in the 12th, Elena Cook in the 17th, and Angelita Castellano in the 50th minute. Angel City goal was scored by Tyler Lucy in the 67th minute. Next game, North Carolina versus Orlando Pride. Lone goal was scored by Marriott Heiss for North Carolina. Next game, San Diego Wave versus Portland Thorns. That game ended in a 1-0 win for Portland Thorns. Goal scored by Sophia Smith in the 5th minute. Washington versus Gotham. Shots, 29 Washington, 8 Gotham. 10 shots, Washington, 2 for Gotham FC. Possession, 55 for Washington, 45 for Gotham FC. Fouls, 12 for Washington, 11 for Gotham FC. Corners, 7 for Washington, and 4 for Gotham FC. You can look for more scores and stats every Monday night at 8 p.m. Also, if you'd like to sponsor this segment, you can contact via website or the Cash App listed on your screen. Enjoy the rest of the show, and we'll see you here next week.
Kayode Mckinnon and Company are ready to dress you in one of their most stylish, comfortable, and attractive athletic gears this fall for you to achieve that desired athletic goal. Check out their online store today for your joggers, tank tops, bras, backpacks, sweatshirts, and everything else you'll need to complete that look. It's Kayode Mckinnon and Company. We care.
Hey, welcome back to the Coach Kayo Show. I'm your host, Kayode. I want to say hi. I want to say good night based on where you're looking at us from. It could be in the Caribbean, it could be in North America. Some people say good night to say hello, and some people say good night to go to bed or to say goodbye. Hi, Sonia. Thanks for coming through. Please do share the live. It's a good opportunity for you to invite your friends. It's a good opportunity to get your colleagues in, to get your friend that wants to go to college and um, don't don't have the idea of how to do so. They are struggling with what is needed. This is a good time to share. If you have questions, feel free feel free to ask. If you want to share a comment, and also please be reminded that you can subscribe to our channel via YouTube, Kayode McKinnon and Co, or at Coach Kayo at Instagram. If you want to stay in touch, if you would like to have um, resources to help you with your process of development. Remember, this show is uncommon. It's it's uncommon. It's unscripted, but most importantly, it's authentic. Please do support the march. You can do so by going to kmsocceracademy.com, and there's a tab there that says shop. You can go there, you can support it. Um, all things soccer, everything that you need is there. We are here to serve. That is what we do well. So we have a special guest to speak to you about the college process. Um, Joining us is a colleague, is someone that I've built a relationship with over our time in at our courses. We'll talk about that. He's the head men's soccer coach of Eastern Connecticut State University. He's a USSFA coach. He's a licensed coach. He's he's a winner in my mind in how he carries himself, how he manages situations, how he manages people, and it proved he's a winner um, with his 70% winning percentage in his conference. He's actually 74% winning coach for the past 14 seasons in both the regular and playoff season. He's one of only five coaches in the New England area currently ranked among the top 50 active soccer coaches in D3. His overall winning percentage. Also played a major role in the development of MLS Next Player in the Oakwood Soccer Club. He's no other than the he's no other than Dave Greg DeVito. Welcome, Greg. I nearly got your name all mixed up, but I'm happy to have you. I'm happy to have you on the show to share your insight. I know you have been doing this for a very long time. You have vast experience in this process, and I know that our listeners are looking forward to some real insight in the college game. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Greg DeVito.
Coyote, thanks for having me on tonight. It's really a pleasure to be able to spend the time with you and your listeners.
Awesome. Awesome. So I know they would like to know a bit more about your process. They would like to know who this person, because obviously Coach Kai don't really bring on any guests and stuff, but this must be a person of importance, someone that could add value, because this is what the show is about. It's about adding value to people's life, about lifting and their standards. So share, if you can, please do share some things about you that it's is a representation of who you are.
Yeah, I mean, I've been really lucky to coach at a bunch of levels, from rec level. You mentioned that I'm currently a college coach, coached at different levels of club. I coached a little bit of MLS Next, and I started coaching a long time ago when I was 18. So I've seen the recruiting process that you wanted to talk about tonight from a lot of different angles. From a rec coach perspective all the way up to a premier and higher level club coach, and then I see it from the other side, from the college coach perspective. So I'm lucky enough to have a lot of those different opportunities. I also have a background as a high school teacher, which is my former career before full-time coaching, and being a high school coach as well. So I've sort of been able to see it from a lot of different perspectives, and there's so many different parts of it, and it's such a big topic that it can really be a little overwhelming to young people. And I think it's important that people do things like this to educate them, to educate their mentors and their parents and so forth, to help them through the process, because it can be really stressful and daunting process for sure.
Fantastic, fantastic, and we'll dive in. We'll dive into some more in-depth things. But before we go into some of the questions that we oftentimes get from our players, from what we hear from other potentials who want to be in that environment. If you have any famous story about your recruiting process, um, anything there that you want to share with us.
That question has come up before, and I don't have to think about it a lot, because there's one story that stands out from really early on in my coaching, my college coaching career. It's about, I don't know, 15 years ago now, and I got an email from a young man who lived in Massachusetts, which is about maybe an hour and a half from here, 2 hours from Connecticut, where our university is. And after going back and forth with him and his club coach, who was also a college coach, I decided to go watch him play live. So the story's kind of interesting, because I should have known that it was going to be sort of a weird day, because on my way to work, I crashed into a deer that morning. I was teaching high school full time at the time and coaching college here. So on my way to work, I had a cup of coffee in my lap, and I'm driving down this two-lane highway, in rural Connecticut where I live, on the way to Yale Smith High School. And this deer pops out in front of me, and the coffee goes all over me. My car's a mess, and I'm supposed to take this recruiting trip right after school up to basically to the South Shore of Boston, to Marshfield, Mass area. So I did going to school. I was able to get out early. I was able to rent a car, and so I drive to this game. And because of everything that had happened, I was maybe like 15, 20 minutes late getting there. Plus, it was a Friday afternoon, and traffic going on the Mass Pike, and 95 in Boston is never fun. So I was about 20 minutes late to the game. So I get to the game. This young man is a senior. He's supposed to be a really good player. And we're 15, 20 minutes into the match, and I'm looking, and he's not on the field. So I'm thinking to myself, all right, here's another bad sign. All this weird stuff's happening today, right? We get to the field, and the kid's not even on the field. And he's supposed to be their captain and one of their better players. So I strike up a conversation with a couple of the adults on the sideline, and I said, if you guys know, his name was Nick. I said, you guys know who Nick is? Oh yeah, Nick's he didn't start tonight. No one knows why. So it's sort of weird. So myself included, I'm sitting there going, should I just call it a day? Should I get back in the car and just go home? This guy doesn't even start for his high school team. Why am I here? So a little bit of time goes on, and something else weird happens. In the state of Massachusetts, one of the only places, it could be the only place in the world, where they have timeouts in soccer. So all of a sudden, there's maybe 15 minutes left in the first half, and everybody leaves the field and goes to the sideline. I said, what just happened? And they go, oh, coach must have used his first half timeout. So I'm thinking to myself, what is going on here, right? So teams come back out, 10, 15 minutes left in the first half. This kid's team is down 2-0. He still hasn't set foot on the field. They're calling timeouts. My car's totaled at home. I smell like coffee and all this stuff. So out onto the field trots this kid who's probably about 6'3" and about 145 pounds. And this is the guy that I'm there to watch, right? So he comes into the game, and he looks like the deer I ran over. He looks like Bambi. So the game completely changes on its head. I can't remember if he had 2 goals and an assist or 1 goal and 2 assists, but his team ended up winning 3-2. He was clearly the best player on the field, and so I'm going, why didn't the coach start him, right? So it was an away game for him. So afterwards, I'm waiting for him. The game ends. His team wins 3-2. They come from behind. It's like their rival school, senior night for them, and all this stuff. So he sees me. I see him. We make eye contact. He comes over. I said, I got to ask you, what happened? He goes, well, yesterday at practice, I got into it a little bit with my coach, and he benched me. So I'm thinking, okay, this kid, he's a good player. He's a troublemaker. Like, what's going on here, right? Character is important. So he says to me, he goes, well, he was really unfair to another one of my teammates, and I said something to him about it. He was being too hard on the guy, and so I kind of called him out in front of the whole team and told him to lighten up a little bit because he was being too hard. And his way of showing me that was inappropriate was to bench me. And so after kind of thinking about it a little bit, I was proud of him. Like, he stood up for his teammate. He was a good leader. I was proud of his coach for kind of showing him maybe that was the wrong way to handle the situation. But the whole thing was such a bizarre story. And then to just end it, because I know it's kind of a long story, he ended up coming here for a visit. He committed. He basically started for 3.5 years. I don't know that he always started his freshman year, but he's the only player in school history. He was an All-New England, ended up being an All-New England player. There's a certificate on the wall behind me with his name on it. And he's the only player in school history to score game-winning goals in 2 different conference championship tournament games.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a cool story, right? I almost went home. First of all, I almost didn't make it there.
Yeah.
And on a variety of reasons. There was a reason why on that day things worked out the way they did, right?
Yeah, well, they say that sometimes the hardest climb give you the best view, right? So I guess, which leads me to this. There's so many perceptions that is associated to this college recruiting process. When it comes to the different levels per se, from JUCO all the way to T1, if you could shed some light on some of the perceptions that oftentimes steer families, players away because they don't truly understand the process. They don't truly understand what the expectations are. If you could speak to that.
Yeah, it's a big question. I think we could spend a lot of time talking about it, and it's something that is probably pretty confusing. And so I think if you put it into perspective, right, there's different divisions, 1, 2, and 3. Our school's Division 3. There's junior college, and there's a lot of different levels within the divisions, right? So there's very, very good teams, like any league, right? Like the Premier League, like MLS Next, like any premier level in your state or even rec level, right? Or high school. So there's always going to be different level teams within the same division or the same class. And so there's so many choices to make. So I think if someone says, I'm only going to look at D1 schools or I'm only going to look at D3 schools, they need to do more work and they need to get better educated on what the process is and what the different schools have to offer, right? Because it is such a big decision. And so I think as young people go through that process and they're being mentored by their coaches and they're being mentored by their parents, you have to keep your options open to different levels. And each school has its own pluses and minuses. regardless of what division it is. And a lot of it depends, really all of it for me depends on the individual person finding the right fit, right? So don't limit yourself and say, oh, I'm only a D3 player, because there may be some D3 schools that maybe you're even not good enough for them, or there may be some D3 schools where you go in right away and you're the best player on the team. And it may be similar, it's going to be similar at every single level, right? There's some really lower level Division I teams, and just like there's some really lower level Division III teams. So you may get a Division I offer, but you might go in there and maybe, the situation isn't the right situation for you, or the school isn't the right situation for you. So I encourage the young people that I coach in club to kind of keep their options open and not put labels on things that would either draw them more towards it or prohibit them from considering it, if that makes sense.
Is it super important though to understand what is your outcome? What is it you're trying to really achieve? Because a lot of times, me being at a junior college and going and talk to players, a lot of times they want to be in a certain environment. They want to be in a certain environment, but they don't really know what the expectations are. Um, does that plays a major role in how in terms of forming or getting rid of those perceptions sometimes?
Yeah, I think that it's hard, right? You're 17 years old and you're going through this process, and you're not really sure why you want to go to college, or what you want to study in college, or if you even want to go to college. And so that plays into it, right? And then, right, the whole world's in front of us right now too. So you start to see, oh, one of my friends already committed to this school. And then you start to feel like, well, why haven't I committed anywhere yet? Or, we put pressure on ourselves that doesn't necessarily need to be there, because it is a process. You have to learn about the school. You have to figure out why do I want to go there, right? The question I always tell young people is, if you didn't have soccer, say something bad happened to you and you got a career-ending injury, would you still be okay at the school? Like, do you still like the school? Do you still like the location? Does the cost still work for you? That type of thing. Does it have your majors? If you took soccer out of the equation, obviously soccer is why we're here, and that's what we're talking about, or whatever sport it is you're thinking about playing in college, and that's a huge piece of it. I'm not saying it's not, but try to take it out of the equation for a minute. And for us, could you see yourself being at Eastern Connecticut State University, even if soccer wasn't part of it? And then I think another huge question is what do you want your role to be, right? So as you go through this process, what do you want your role to be? Why are you here? Do you want to be the man or the woman? Like, do you want to be the main player? Do you want to be someone that has to work really, really hard to get into the team, to get into the first 11, to get into the rotation? Are you happy being on maybe you're on a really, really, really high level team. Maybe you're on Wake Forest, but you're a role player, or you're just a squad player, and you just you train really hard, and that's your role, is to be a good teammate every day. So everybody's got different whys, right? Why are we here? And so you can't answer that question. Only the person in their heart knows what they really want, right?
Yeah. So there's, and you touch on it a bit. I just want to dive a little bit more deeper into they have these differences. Well, this level is better than this level. I'm always on the fence of it with it, because I believe that if you're going to differentiate levels, you have to talk about uh, the level of soccer, the level of coaching, the level of leadership, the level of expertise. Let's say, I'm not knocking no one, but if you're a maths teacher and you're just given a team because you're in the school and you have to manage somebody, but then you are a licensed professional coach, professional/professional player, but coaching at the D3 school, and a player wants to play at a high level, I sometimes I wonder which coach give you a better opportunity of accomplishing that feat. Is it the bigger school with a coach that is less equipped to do so, but can manage you that you're skillful enough to play. But what about your development? But there's what is the big difference that you know I hear so many players and families talk about when it comes to um, the different levels of college, D3, D1, D2, you know, but what are the major differences there?
And again, it's you just alluded to it. It's a big question. You may have some very qualified coaches coaching at a lower level in any right, and whether it's high school, whether it's club, whether it's hey, it's a very qualified coach, but they really just enjoy grassroots coaching, right? So it's a tough one, and I think that's where it comes down to knowing what you want and doing your homework. Do your homework on the coach. What are the coach's qualifications? Um, if your goal is to just be a really good college player and have a good reputation for developing players versus not. If your goal is to be a pro, do they have a reputation for developing pros? Do they have a background like you do as a pro player to draw upon? So I think doing your homework in that process, because again, I feel like you're going to find the full gamut. There's people that coach at my level in Division III that are some of the best coaches around, and they're instructors for United Soccer coaches, they're instructors for USSF. That doesn't mean just because their job happens to be in a D3 institution that they're not good at developing players. But at the same time, it's clear that pros aren't coming from the D3 and D2 level as much as they're coming from the D1 level. So I think it goes back to using your mentors, asking questions,
Mhm.
and not closing any doors. But ask questions. Don't just assume because you're going to a school that's a D2 school that the coach is going to be better than the D3 school, or that the D2 coach is going to be worse than the D1 coach.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
awesome. Listen, remember we're talking to Mr. Greg DeVito, the coach of Eastern Connecticut State University. The process to get into college, if you have this aspiration to play at that level, to play at the college level, this is what we're talking about. Please do share this live. Try to get as much people involved. If you have a question, if you want to share a comment, please do so. We want to get you involved as much as possible because this process is really for you. That's what we talk about on the Coach Kayo show, about impacting and inspiring our young people to live out their purpose. So it just might be you who have this big decision to make and confused. You might just need to be here, and you might just need to ask a question that nobody else could probably answer. But we'll dive a bit more deep into this conversation when we return from this short break. Stay tuned. So the question is, who is KMSA? KMSA is a training academy focused primarily on the development of individuals based on their pathway, based on where they want to be in their careers. And also focus a lot on young players who want to be introduced to the game, and players who are at the fundamental stage, making sure that we are orienting and reorienting the players on a consistent basis. All right, welcome back to the Coach Kayo Show. Kayode Mckinnon here, alongside Mr. Greg DeVito. We're talking this process of getting to college and being a top student athlete. Quick though, Greg, what would you say? What is the profile of a successful student athlete at Eastern Connecticut?
I think that a successful student athlete here is um, a lot of coach. I've been able to do some of these, workshops for different clubs with other college coaches. So, for example, they might get a Division One coach, Division Two coach, and Division Three coach, and have all three of us come in and do something similar to what you're doing, maybe in a live setting for their rising juniors and seniors in their club, both boys and girls. So coaches tend to answer the question similarly. They're looking for good character. They're looking for obviously they're looking for talent. Everybody is looking for talent. They're looking for players that work hard, and I think those are kind of two basic things, right? So somebody comes to watch you play. They want to see that you have a consistent high work rate. They want to see that you appear to be a good team player, coachable, have high character on the field. You're not doing things that are inappropriate, going to cost your team a match, that type of thing. But I think if you ask that question, because I have before, to coaches at the highest level of, say, D1, they really are looking for a player that fits a specific role within their system, many of them who has specific characteristics when they go to watch a game that no one else on the field has, right? So the top, I don't know, X number of teams in D1, when they go to recruit, they're able to look for that, right? Because they're getting those players. They're getting internationals. They're getting the highest level MLS next players that we have in our country, right? So what it takes for them as a player is a little bit different than what it takes for us. For me, when I go, I'm looking for one of the better players on the field, but it's not the same level, obviously, that somebody at, again, Wake Forest is looking at or UConn is looking at. For us, we're looking for that consistent work rate. Maybe we're looking for some versatility. You could play other positions if you needed to. Our team is usually regionally ranked, sometimes nationally ranked, but we're not consistently nationally ranked every year. More or less consistently regionally ranked. So we're looking for, one of the better players on a premier team, on a ECNL team, but probably not the best player, and certainly not the player that really, really I'd love to have that player. It's not saying we don't go for that player, but that's probably not the profile that we get. Maybe kids that are under the radar a tiny bit from some of the smaller clubs are kids that we go after.
I think.
I'm sorry. Character and hard work. I think you're going to hear just about every coach you talk to wants to see what you're about. Because when you come to the next level, you're going to be one of, right, maybe the better players on your team, obviously. And now you're going to join a group of kids who everybody was one of the better players on their, in their club or on their high school or whatever it was. And so now you have to find ways to stand out, and some things that are under your control, right, or how hard your effort every day and how you are as a person.
Yeah, I
Sorry,
think just added to that, because just for some clarity, when you spoke about the profile and the clear expectations, are you also touching on these maybe technical aspects, physical aspects, the tactical aspects of the game? Is that part of
Of course.
the characteristics that you mentioned?
Yeah, of course. And I think obviously we all want good players, and there's a lot of them out there. I was at a showcase this weekend. There's tons of players that are all very similar to each other. And so again, at my level, I'm not going to get the player who's the best player at the tournament, like a top D level 1 school might get. But I'm looking for the basic technical skills, sound fundamentals, sound tactics, obviously physical presence, speed, things like that everybody else is looking at. But what differentiates all those kids when they're all sort of the same, is their work rate a lot of times and things like that. Because when we go to these showcases and you watch, a dozen different games in a day, and you see a couple hundred different kids, what really makes them stand out, again, for our level, is how hard they work. Yes, technique and those things are important, but so many of the kids are good players, and some of them are so similar that it really is their work rate that stands out. Character, when they lose the ball, do they try to win it back right away, or they lay on the ground and complain? Things like that are going to stand out right away.
Yeah, I like that you're a bit specific with that, because I go and player A would say, I want to be a D1 player, I want to be a D3 player, and you ask, okay, what are the expectations? Do you know? And everything just go blank. They're not sure. They're not sure about the expected qualities or the characteristics that might be needed to play at that level. So they oftentimes just go in to a situation with just hope and not necessarily knowing, their role and their expectations. Um, do they fit the profile? And I see more and more coaches are talking about specific profile of players that they need because they don't really need the headache of players just rushing to them and players and being bound down with all these emails and all these videos. So now they're trying to make it as specific as possible. Is that something that you guys are already also doing at your school, to where you narrow it down to these are our clear expectations just for players who thinking about going to schools and just want to start to school, or just want to be in a big school, or just wanting certain things that don't necessarily align with with your player profile, with what you expect based on position, based on your style of play, based on your model in how you want to play. Are you guys doing the same thing now in terms of just being specific about um, what type of player you want for your model? Is that a specific thing, or it's okay, I'm looking for somebody who just work hard, or it's a bit more in depth? Because I see a lot of people running track, they run a lot of miles, with their preparation to go to college. Um, it's and sometimes I wonder, are you going for track, or are you going for soccer? So if you could speak to that a bit, if it's that detailed and specific, a player need to fit that profile to be a part of a elite program like yours.
I mean, I think there's things in our program that are non-negotiable that we talk about that we expect from different positions without articulating those to our recruits. Yeah, I go out and I look for those things and I compare them to players that we have that play those positions. Do they do things that are, the little things in the game? For example, I went to watch a player play yesterday, and he had written to me, center back, very composed on the ball, very adept at playing out, very adept at organizing his teammates, very calm on the ball. Was okay at aerial battles, but had checked off a lot of the things that we want from our center backs. Not the most athletic kid on the field, but certainly not unathletic, and he had good size, and he was okay. He was fairly quick, but not lightning fast. Then I went to watch another center back yesterday afternoon, same day, same tournament, same age, and it's a completely different type of player, which for his team worked fine, but was never asked to pass the ball out of the back. It was just win the ball and play the ball forward. And I don't know that player, with the good qualities he had, probably a little more athletic, a little better in the air. I don't know that he fits exactly what we're looking for, because he would win the ball, but he would give the ball away a lot. And so I think, yeah, to answer your questions, but when that player asks for feedback, hey coach, were you able to come see me? I'm always very honest. Hey, I thought you're very athletic. You competed hard. You certainly worked hard. You certainly, like you said, ran track. And you put your effort in. But I never really saw you try to play. So, is it that your coach doesn't want you guys to play to that? Because maybe that's how he's being instructed to play. Maybe when he plays with his high school team, maybe he's actually very, very adept at it, but his coach doesn't want him to play that way. So unless you ask the question, you don't know. You know what I mean? And it goes from the recruit side of it too, right? You may see a couple of highlights on Instagram and judge a program by those highlights as being good, bad, or somewhere in the middle. My advice to everyone that's listening right now is watch matches. Watch matches at different levels. Before you say, I want this level, that level, this program, watch. Don't just watch the highlights, because the things that are on the highlights are the cool things. right? So everything's live streamed now. And if it's not live streamed, you can get it on demand, right? Any college game you can just about watch that you want. So watch 45 minutes, and then say to yourself, hey, how would I fit into that style of play? Not just what I saw on Instagram, or not just what my buddy, sent me a quick 20-second video of, but how would I fit in? Would I be like really, really good on that team? Would I be somewhere in the middle? Or would I be like, this is sort of above my head, And then if you're honest with yourself again, and you go back to the heart part, right? Inside, you got to be honest with yourself and go, man, if I went there, like I'd be the best player freshman year. Do I really want that? Or I don't know if I could play there ever. And you have to be honest with yourself. I think that's the one area where we're lacking is the education piece and educating ourselves as potential prospects, right? So you have access to it all day long, 24/7 on your phone. And I advise you really take advantage of that. And it can't just be a 30-second or 3-minute highlight video of the team, because that doesn't give you an indication of how they play.
Yeah, I like that. I like the part that you said that you went to the game with what is the player that will represent your game model. And that is what I try to share with a lot of young players. You have to know. You have to know the game model. You have to know the culture of that school. You have to know the culture of their soccer, because a coach might just come to watch. He's not going to tell you everything that he needs. He's going to look, because he already identified with what he needs in this said player. And I'm happy that you said that, because a lot of players don't know. They don't know that they need to fit a certain profile. And how do you know that? You have to do your research. You have to be able to talk to coaches who have a good understanding also of what the expectations are up there. Because just like you can just come and watch and you have your box. And if you don't take those boxes off, then you might left thinking that you're good, but not good for that program that you want to go to. Not because you can play, but you don't fit the profile. It's not just being a good player. It's not just running. It's not just athleticism, as you mentioned. One player could run, but he don't do the things that you want to do or how you want to play. It don't make that player bad or make that player better. It's just the profile of the player. So I really appreciate that you mentioned that, because I talk to them a lot, and these things sometimes just fly over their head. Like, yeah, I'm good. I'm just gonna go play. No, it's you have to fit a certain profile to play in a specific school, and you have to know what that looks like so you could train like that. Nevertheless, um, what makes Eastern Connecticut State unique, as you how would you put it in terms of their uniqueness?
Of our school,
Yeah.
I mean, our school is a relatively smaller liberal arts state school, and I think what makes our school great, aside from the soccer program, is again, soccer is just a small piece of your experiences. We've got some really great people on our campus, and that really are out to help kids and do the best by the kids in all the different departments on our campus. And when recruits come to campus, I try to expose them to different things, going to classes, meeting people that are professors or advisors in their intended majors that they're thinking about majoring in. We try to get them to meet other people in our department, whether it be like our faculty athletic rep, our athletic director, so that they can meet other adults on campus. And then we try to have them spend as much time as possible with the guys on our team. We haven't done overnights in 2 years because of COVID, but now kids are coming for like a full day. And hopefully someday we'll be back to being able to do overnights. We try to have them spend as much time with the guys on the team, whether it's playing or going to class or coming to training or coming to team meetings or whatever it is, so that they can see what the culture is firsthand. So they can ask all the questions they want of the guys. I can tell them anything I want, but I want them to experience it firsthand. And I think once we get kids on campus, it's a pretty nice campus. A lot of the buildings are either brand new or renovated in the past 15, 10, 5 years. So it's in a good place that way, and the campus sort of sells itself. But the people on our campus really are great people that are out there for kids. And, I think that's part of it lends itself to a question, right? The campus visit's really important because you're going to get a vibe. You're going to get a vibe for, could I see myself there? Would I be happy there? Again, forget about soccer for a minute, but it's important, right? Would I be comfortable with the guys on or the young ladies on the team? Would I be comfortable with the facilities? Do I like playing on turf because they don't have grass? What are the weight training facilities like? What are the other facilities for student athletes? What are the resources for student athletes? Maybe you need extra help, or you're someone that likes small class sizes. Are those things available? For your tutors available? I mentioned class sizes. Some schools you might be in a class with several hundred people, or you like here it's a smaller liberal arts school, so most of our classes are under 30. Maybe you want a really big school, maybe you want a really small school. So I think the campus visit is huge. Unfortunately, I feel really bad for kids because the last couple of years they've been cheated in that, right? So it's been limited. They haven't been able to, in some cases, for a while there they couldn't even visit campus. And then they could, but they couldn't do overnights. They can't go in the dorms. They can't do this. So COVID's really cheated that experience. But I think that's a big part of the process because you're going to get a feeling. You're going to be like, hey, I could see myself on that campus in that town with those people, or I didn't get a good vibe. I didn't get a good feeling. Maybe I need to keep looking.
Yeah. Remember, guys, we're talking all things soccer here. We with Coach Greg DeVito from Eastern Eastern State, um, Eastern Connecticut State University. We're talking about your preparation for college. Please do share this live. Get your friends in, get your parents in, so that they get to understand this process a bit more. And since we on the hi, good night to Trevor Leacock. Yeah, thanks for being in here. Please share. Please share. It's live. We have Roshana Ventura here also. Thanks for coming through. Please share the live. You might have a cousin, you might have a niece, you might have a nephew um, wanting and thinking about this process and don't really know. This is the opportunity. And while we're on this topic of uniqueness, Greg, we have something on our show we call the nudge of the week. And we always try to highlight things that people are doing that oftentimes don't come to the forefront, but they're impacting lives and they're creating a path that people who don't believe can now believe. So, for the nudge of the week, take a look. Yes, we're back. Nikiza O Noel. If you Linden born um, at KMSA here and at Coach Kayo show, we are truly loving what she's doing. Check out her brand, Fabulous, because it's more than a brand, it's a movement, like she said. While you're trying to be like someone else, that person might be trying to be like you. So it's all about empowering women from all walks of life. She has her fabulous brand. You can check her store out at www.nikizanoel.com, or you could go on Facebook and check her out, Nikiza O. Noel, group of companies, or Instagram, nikizanoel.com. She's doing some fantastic things. Please please do support her because she's empowering not just herself, but she's empowering young women to have a purpose, to have a goal, to have a dream, and take the journey, regardless of some of the stumbling blocks that might come in your way. So take a big nudge, Nikiza, Noel. We are proud of what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. Right. So a lot of the questions that we get in this college environment is about one, um, academic scholarship. How how big of a role um, your school play in terms of providing that, and is there a percentage of academic scholarship that you can get that could help facilitate your process in the soccer environment?
Yeah, well, again, Division 3, no athletic scholarships, right? So our school can only give you academic scholarships, and our tuition compared to some other places is really affordable. I wouldn't say cheap, but it's really affordable in the 20s still. Um, and so the only way that that can be reduced is by academic scholarships. So it's important to to keep your grades up. The other thing to consider is where Division 1 and 2 can give scholarships is it's not like they have unlimited amounts of money. So even fully funded Division 1 programs only have 9.9 or 10 scholarships. And so if you think about a 30-man roster, maybe it's being split up amongst more than 10 players, maybe it's not, but it's always good to get the grades up because that, say you don't get an athletic scholarship, and like I said, there's not a lot of them if you think about it in terms of each team only has 10. Um, and the thousands of young people coming out every year that want to play college sports, or college soccer in this case, and there's only 10 per team. It's best to do as best you can in the classroom in high school. And even, some people start off in high school not having a great freshman year. Pick it up because it's never too late. Well, sometimes it's too late, but it's not too late to really pick it up sophomore, junior, senior year and get your grades up so that when it comes time to, to enter college, you can get some academic money. So for us, if you have maybe a 3.3 or a 3.4 or higher in high school, you'll get some academic money. But it's not, it's not like a full scholarship or anything like that, but it can amount to maybe a half scholarship, or, a little bit less than that, a third of the scholarship, if you are a really high achieving student in high school. So it's worth it. It's really important to keep your grades up. And even if you don't end up getting an academic scholarship, having good grades is going to open more doors to different universities that even if you are a really good athlete, still might not be able to get you in because of your grades. You don't want to have that happen. So you want to keep the grades up, and keep the doors open for the future. Because again, we said we don't want to close any doors. We don't want to shut out any schools right off the bat. So strong academics will help you keep your search as wide as possible.
Fantastic, fantastic. So players who want to be at that level, D3 level, and looking for scholarship, you know they have to keep, their grades need to be at a different level. How important though, Greg, is the surrounding communities in terms of your recruiting? Is something that you use as a tool because people like different things. How how major is that in terms of your recruiting?
I mean, our relationship with the coaches, or my relationship with the coaches in this area of the state, and we get a lot of our players from a conference called the Central Connecticut Conference. I think now they're up to 30 some odd teams in that conference, so it's a pretty big conference. Maybe more now. But a lot of our players tend to come from Connecticut because we're a state school. We do have half a dozen or so kids from out of state. This year we have 3 more coming from out of state, so maybe we'll be up to 7 or so from out of state out of our 29 players on the roster. But most of our kids come from Connecticut, and a lot of them come from this side of the river, so to speak. They call it the east side of the river, because we do have a few state schools in Connecticut. So, for instance, there's a Western Connecticut is on the other side of the state. They tend to get more kids from that side of the state. But it is the relationship with the coaches is important. There's we do some camps and clinics and things and in the community and high school clinics to develop those relationships. And there's a lot of really good people that whose opinions in this area who I can trust. And that's why it's important for as a recruit have a good relationship with your coach and use them as advocates for you and don't be afraid to ask for their help. Because a lot of times they may know coaches that they can reach out to on your behalf.
In terms of, and added to that, in terms of the surrounding community for recreation, if somebody likes to just be quiet, if somebody likes to do bike riding, that kind of is something that you use as part of, from a cultural standpoint. What is it that your school provide in terms of that recreational side of things?
I'm not sure I understand.
In the surrounding areas, like some people like to go to more quiet areas where it's not a whole lot happening. Some people like to do hiking. Some people they like to go play golf. In your surrounding areas, are these things there for different people looking for different cultural environment per se?
It's interesting because I was just talking about this with a couple of the guys today, and you're talking about how years ago I went to UConn and there wasn't a lot there yet, and now if you drove through there, it's completely different restaurants and community center and all sorts of things that weren't there. And of course, the campus is completely different. It's beautiful, but a lot of times I find here I'll ask players like, "Have you ever been to Mansfield Hollow to go hiking?" And it's literally 3 miles from here, and they haven't yet, and so there's things that are out there. And I was the same way when I was at UConn. It was like there were things that were just a couple of miles away from campus, and then once you learned about them, and you figured it out that they were there. So our area is sort of unique. Willimantic's like an old mill town, and sometimes it gets a little bit of a bad reputation. But I love it. I own a house here, but just outside of Willimantic, it's all these like really cool parks and old historic buildings and places to hike and good restaurants to eat at, and like you said, quiet places, golf courses, all the things you just mentioned. We're actually really close to the Mohegan Sun Casino. Not that I'm advocating going gambling, but they have concerts there, and the Connecticut Sun, the women's professional basketball team plays there. They just played the Big East Women's Basketball Championships there. They have all sorts of they have 2 different concert venues there, a smaller one and a larger one. So there's stuff to do within a not so far distance. And we're also not that far from Providence and Boston either, which are pretty big cities on the East Coast. So
yeah,
there's definitely a good amount of things to do here. But I think, again, right, all these questions you're asking, I think you're just trying to inspire your listeners to think about what the area is like, right? Like, can you see yourself in that area? What is there to do? And again, you ask those questions because recruits will come in and say, well, it seems like the town's a little this or a little that. And I'm completely honest with you. I mean, it's what you see. But, expand your radius just a little bit and you'll see some pretty cool things that are around to do. So
fantastic. Because it's important. You're going to be there for the next couple of years.
Right.
You want to be comfortable. Because if you're not, then everything start going downhill for you. Especially if you want to be in a soccer program and you're not playing, you better be able to find some other things to keep you psychologically intact. So I believe those things play a major role. We want to ask a few more questions. If you're now joining us, we're talking about preparing for college with Coach Greg DeVito from Eastern Connecticut State University. He's sharing knowledge. So if you haven't yet, please share this because maybe they didn't get a chance to hear it now, but they will need to hear it because they have big decisions to make about their lives. There's only one life you have. You have to keep moving forward. Brandon, we will ask you a question when we come back from this short break. We got about 2 or really important questions to ask Coach, and you don't want to miss these 2 questions. They are the most important one for the night. Trust me on that. We'll be right back after this short break.
Now, same situation, the 11v11 game, and this movement is made, okay? These players are here, really stretch the field because they're super compact. Now, when this happens and this player comes in, this is what initially we wanted to see. This is what initially we wanted to see, okay? Which created this and this, all right? Let's say the same situation happens and this player drops here. Then what happens is now we have the same scenario with the 2 and the 8. Now the 2 getting behind. So we have that second situation there by adding the 11 trying to defend.
Welcome back to the Coach Kayode Show. Kayode here. We are talking about preparing for college with Coach Greg DeVito. I think we had a question from one Brandon Madrigal. What qualities do you look for in a goalkeeper at the college level?
It's a great question. And I think that will depend on each coach. But I think a lot of coaches now in the game today want to see you be able to play as a field player, play with your feet, play with both feet, be able to pass the ball competently with both feet, right? So aside from traditional goalkeeper skills like being a great shot stopper, that type of thing, we want to see some leadership. We want to see some beginnings of ability to organize the group, specifically organizing your back line and communicating with your center backs and organizing them so that they can organize forward. Those leadership skills are really important. And, I think the basic things, the basic skills, you can go on and on about goalkeeping. Those are things that you're going to get better at and that you're going to develop, being better in the air on crosses and decision making, things like that. As goalkeepers get older, they tend to get much better at those things. But the basics of being a pretty good field player, that your teammates feel comfortable playing the ball back to, playing through you, switching the point of attack, and your distribution are going to be pretty important in the modern game. A lot of teams are really relying on their goalkeepers to be a field player and create numbers up situations to build out of the back. That's a great question.
Yeah,
that's a great question to ask me. And it's a great question as you go through the process, as it Brendan, to ask every coach that you go and meet with, hey, what do you value in a goalkeeper? What do you look for in a goalkeeper, like Kayode said? Because maybe a certain coach never wants to build out of the back, and they want you to take every goal kick along, and they don't want the ball played back to you, and that could work just perfect for that program. It's good to ask those questions, right? Because there's no right answer to the question. It can vary, and certain things can work better, for certain programs. So I think it's a very valid question.
Like you said, a coach could always tell the quality of a player based on the question asked, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that is good. Ask good questions. So winding it down, because we just on the hour. A lot of club coaches and even high school coaches at times, oftentimes get in the middle of the process. And what we've seen with certain club high school coaches, they kind of deter players away from certain colleges because it might not fit. It might not fit what they're able to use within the environment to show the productiveness of the environment. If let's say set player decide to go to JUCO because the better fit, coach will try to drive them to a D2 or a D3 or a D1 school just because it fits what the club want to represent, what they want to speak of, what they want to sell. And even so for some high schools, coaches want to say, well, yeah, we, our staff send this player to this school. But um, do you see that as a big issue? Because is it really benefiting the player, or is it benefiting um, the programs, the coaches, the school, as part of a perception, giving people a sense of you are you are at this level, while you might not be. Can you speak to that a bit?
It's a good question. I mean, I've been lucky. The last two clubs that I've worked for were very good at being honest with kids and telling them. Um, Kids don't always ask, and some coaches are more hands-on than others. Um, they don't always ask for help, so I think part of it is asking your club coaches for help, but also asking your high school coach for help or some other coaches that might know you, and getting different opinions so that you're not just placing your whole decision on the opinion of one coach. So if that is happening, it's less likely to happen if you maybe solicit some other opinions. But I've been lucky enough to work with people, and I am one of those people that tries to encourage kids to be honest about their ability and really watch games and see how they might fit in. But at the end of the day, you can't control the decision they make, and so a kid might get offered a Division I's roster spot. It might be their first offer, and they jump at it because they're afraid they might not get another one, and it might not be the best choice for them. But at the end of the day, that's it's kind of their decision as a player to make. But I would just encourage you when you're going through the process to ask the opinion of more than one person, and weigh those with your own watching games, going on your campus visits, talking to players, talking to the college coach, and all the other things we've already mentioned, so that you're not just taking the opinion of one adult, and that's where you end up.
Fantastic. Listen, we need to do this a bit more often. We need to be able to equip our young people, because um, we've seen a lot of some mistakes that in some cases causing people their lives, uh, young people taking their own lives because things are not what they expected it to be, because somebody wasn't they they weren't really honest with them. And that's what you're saying. Seek advice, do more research. Just don't go on the status quo, don't just go on perception, but really truly understand what your purpose is, really understand what is it you want as an outcome, and do the necessary things to make sure that you're fully equipped. And it shows like this is having these conversations, like the question Brandon asked, needs to be asked. It's not just I want to be there for the status quo and I just want to be there to say I'm there, but not really there. But not really there. So, really want to thank you for coming through, sir. I want you to share any last um, parting words that you might have for young people, our parents, who at this point in time might have a bit more clarity in the process, because they said the community never listened to the prophet out of the community. They always listen to the prophet outside of the community. There's something about the prophet in the community that don't hold um, the same power. So, any parting words, sir?
Yeah, I think the last piece of advice I always like to share with discussions on this topic are it's stressful, um, but don't let it consume you. Right? Get your people that are close to you, your parents, your club coach, your high school coach, maybe another person that you trust in your life, teacher at school. Get 4 or 5 people that are sort of like your team that are involved in the decision with you that you can bounce ideas off of, that will give you different perspectives. And don't stress out about it because there's a place for everyone. And it is a process, right? So jumping at the first school that sounds good isn't always a great idea. There's this thing called the transfer portal out there that you may have heard of, and there's over 2,000 young men in it right now, and on the men's side, and I'm not sure about the women's side, but on the men's side, that want to transfer because they're not happy with the decision that they made at first, right? So it's a process. It's not an easy one, but get your team together. Like I said, a couple of coaches, your parents, guardians, relatives that you trust, and really just bounce ideas off of them, and do your homework, and it should all work out for you. But don't feel like it's something that needs to happen in one day, and you need to make the decision, right away as soon as you get one offer.
Yep. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Greg DeVito, Eastern Connecticut State University. The Coach Kayode Show would like to truly thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to share with us and share with our listeners this process. I think it was a really honest process. It was really honest answers in terms of things that we need to do, things that we need to understand, that we make good, life-changing decisions. And like I said, we need to do this a bit more often. Looking forward to having you back one day,
Thank
um,
you, Patty.
to go a bit more deeper into certain things. But thanks again. Thanks for coming through.
Thank
Appreciate
you
it.
so much. It's my pleasure.
Okay. Talk to you. Listen, there you have it. There you have it. Very important. You heard about the transfer portal. Kids are just in there looking for a next opportunity. Even in kids who are now trying to be recruited, there are thousands and thousands of them still waiting, still looking, still hoping. These decisions are tough decisions, and you need as much people to give you honest insight, need to give you honest direction. Don't worry about the perception. Don't worry about the status quo. This is your life. This is your life. It's more than just playing soccer, but it's about being in the right environment. Talking uh, even to players who are looking at the County College of Morris, where I'm the head coach for the women's program. A lot of them had bad experiences at high school, experiences where they are still struggling with because they wanted to play and felt like the process or the environment wasn't conducive for that. So now they're looking to rekindle the fire that they had, because it's more about their life, it's more about fulfillment, it's more about their mental health, it's more about being a part of a community that will help them to grow, that will help them to develop. So this process cannot be about perception. The process cannot be about status quo. The process have to be about is development happening. Are you going to be a better person? Are you going to grow as you go through this process? Because we see young people taking their own lives in college. We see young people taking their lives, and they have their friends and they have their loved ones around them that don't have a clue until something happens. So how important it is to be in a good environment that helps you to be more productive, that creates long-term memory that is productive. Yes, it's very important. So this process should not be taken lightly. This process should not be rushed either. Take your time. Have a clear understanding of what you want the outcome to be. Don't worry about where you're starting. Worry about the outcome. The outcome will lead you to the starting. Just like we talk about in soccer. You can't talk about the beginning of the session without understanding what the ending should look like. That is what you reflect on. You reflect on the process that um, would have uh, demonstrate the outcome that you got, and then you make a plan to start again to get you to the outcome that you want. So know where you know what you want to look like, know what you want your life to look like, and then work your way back to understanding what puts you in the best situation to live out a productive life. It could be JUCO, it could be D3, it could be D2, it could be D1. That is not the most important thing. The most important thing is you. The most important thing is your life. The most important thing is what gives you fulfillment. Like we say, don't follow trends. Don't follow trends. Don't ask for a seat at the table. Have your own table. Because at the end of the day, it's about you. It's about your life. Okay? So thanks again for coming through. Thanks for those who came in and make sure that we knew that they were in here. Thanks to the questions. We were looking forward for more questions, but still ask the questions and we will get the answer to you to the best of our abilities. We thank you again for being a part of the Coach Kayode Show, and we pray that you have a productive and healthy week as you continue your journey of life. Thanks again and have a good night.
A wide variety of episodes are already available, chock full of incredible insight from two qualified, experienced coaches. Here are some previews of eye-opening quotes.
Lots of players think they need to drive an hour or 2 hours to get good training. Because community clubs do not feel, most of them, if not all of them, don't feel the responsibility to provide every child the best opportunity. This is for players to have fun, so why not name it rec? An elite league shouldn't be based on teams. It should be based on the coaching. There's no integrity in the game. It's all about business. That's all it is. There's nothing about soccer first. Everything is about giving the athletes an experience.
We hope you are available to tune in. New episodes every Monday night.